Ketzad docher hatumah.
Did you check what everybody's in?
What?
Did you check what everybody's
Yeah,
in?
yeah. We're doing well online.
Okay.
We're in the fourth parak, the 12th halacha. We just said about how they test, how they make the determination if the sacrifices will be performed b'tumah on any given day. So they said you could look at the Rov Kahal. Those are the Jews who come to the temple, and I can't stress even more. They're the ones who enter Har HaBayis in a state of tumat mate. And if they're the majority, so they go ahead with that. Or you could have the Kohanim or Tameim or the Kelim or Tameim, all of which are apparently happened in history. They're going to leave. We're going to see a great example that's explicit in the Tanakh of when this happened, that the Rov of the Kahal, or they realized that even if the Rov of the Kahal would show up, they didn't even have to bother counting. It was just patently clear that the Kahal who didn't even show up were not ready for Passover. Okay? You're looking puzzled.
No, I'm not.
It's in Divrei Yamim. We'll see it, God willing, very soon. Okay? The 13th halacha is over here. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Where were we at? Let me. I get confused by the pagination here. Yigatsu kulan la'azara. Fine. V'atmeim be'tumah acheret k'gon zavim v'zavot midot utmei sheretz unvela v'chayotzi behem. All these other people with other tumot. Yitasku bo v'lo yikansu la'azara. Lo yitasku bo. They should not be doing the tumah, the sacrifices. Why? All of their type of tumah is removed by what? Simple immersion in the mikvah. They could have done that yesterday, so they should have done it yesterday. Tumat mate is unique in that it affects everybody, and it takes 7 days at least to remove it. Okay. Well, why can't they argue? Well, we're letting all the Tumei mate today, and we're performing the sacrificial service bitumah. Yeah, but still, you should at least get rid of the tumah that you can. Tumat haguf, not tumat mate. V'im averu v'asu. Let's say they decide they did this anyways. They went in there. Oh, nichnasu la'azara. We're talking about Kohanim here. Asu, Kohanim did the service, or just regular people went into the Azara. Chayavim karet al habiyo mital avodah. So they are chayav karet for entering the Azara in a state of tumah, which they should not have. And if they're Kohanim, they are also liable to death at the hands of heaven for performing the service in that state. All the Kohanim are Tumei mate. Go ahead with the service. Oh, but this Kohen was a Tumei Sheretz or a Baal Keri. So that's less severe tumah than being a Tumei mate, obviously, but still he should have gone to mikvah. So he is to be given, he's held accountable by the heavenly court. The only type of tumah that's pushed aside for the public sacrifices is the death impurity. Why would this happen? Pesach was done. There's such a big crowd, and they're all Tumeim. It was done B'tumah, and they happen to have pushed into the Heichal. In order to even get pushed into the Heichal, you already have to be in the Ulam. In order to get into the Ulam, you have to be up the stairs, which means there's just such a big crowd in the base of HaMikdash that day that, what are you going to do? There's standing room only, and look, they're breaking the rules, but they could say, well, I'm north of the altar. Sorry, I'm the west of the altar, which is normally forbidden to be. Why are they west of the altar? Because they were sacrificing the korban there. They have to slaughter the korban somewhere in the Azara, and it doesn't have to be on the north side of the altar like the most holy sacrifices. Pesach is Kachib Kalim. Minimum sacrifice. You can even technically sacrifice it on the other side of the Heichal. So there were Jews all over the place, and such a big crowd that they actually entered the Kodesh. Could you believe such a thing? By the way, the Mishneh mentions this. So that is how, by the way, you could have a state that, a Tumei mate went into the temple. So, what's sitting there? The shulchan, the menorah, right? So they touch a Tumei mace, touches a kli like that. What does he do? He contaminates it. So the menorah and the shulchan got contaminated. So it's something that happened, like it was conceivable, and they mentioned this as happening, and means that so you have to take out the menorah, and purify it, and I guess take out one of the other menorahs and put that into service, which is why the Mishneh mentions they had backups. Okay. So people would be forced into the Heichal in this situation. They're Peturim. They're exempt from punishment. They're only permitted to go into the Azara. And here they are going to the Kodesh. They're getting up close and personal with the menorah. They were allowed in this part of the Machane. They're already in Machane Shechina. So they haven't gone into a Machane they shouldn't have. They're already allowed into this part of the Machane. So there's no punishment for this. Very interesting halachic exception. Hayu miktzat beit of tmeim. Who's the beit of? That is the group of Kohanim who are supposed to be working that day in the temple. Remember, there's the mishmar is the week's worth, and each day there's a different beit of. Umiksatam torim. You have the groups of this one beit of. Some are Kohanim, some are tmeim, some are not. Alpha pisha ruban tmeimate. Even though most of them are tmeimate, lo yakrivu ella hatorim. Still, we only want the torim to work, the ones who are pure of that day. Kol beit ha'av tmeimate. Let's say the whole beit of is tmeimate. The entire day's Kohanim are impure. Yaviu beit av acher. So let a different day's group of Kohanim work, a different base of within that mishmar. Ha'ita kol mishmarat tmeimate. Let's say the entire mishmar. All the Kohanim have to work that week. It's Wednesday. And all the Kohanim who are working in the temple that week are actually present in the Beit HaMoked overnight when the Tumah happened. So they're all Tmeim. Mechazrin al mishmera acheret. We try to look, maybe we'll find a different mishmeret to be there, a different Kohanic group. But of course, in the middle of the week, what are the odds that there's another full mishmar waiting around to come in? If it's the day when they switch, they switch over on Shabbos, so that's possible. If it's a Tuesday, it's a little bit trickier. Maybe they're all in Jerusalem anyways. But then they look around Yerushalayim. They don't have to go to another city. By the way, just going to another city will take some time. You might miss the Talmud in that morning. So in this case, well, that's it. We say that's how you determine Rov Kohanim. All the Mishmars is Tameh, and you look around Jerusalem, you don't have another Mishmar's worth of Kohanim who are Tohorim, so do it Betuma. Why do we look for a different Beit Av, for a different day? Remember, make a distinction here. Ram says it's not hutra b'tzibur, permitted. It's still prohibited. It's still just as aser. But to be surah menet, this tumah is still just as aser. Udchuyahi ata, but it's pushed aside right now. It's like, let's say someone is duchiyah b'Shabbos. Shabbos is nivches for pikuach nefesh. Doesn't mean you're driving an ambulance already because you have to get this guy to the hospital, or you're trying to rush to save his life. So you can do what you need to do to save his life. It doesn't mean that, okay, now you can smoke a cigarette, or now you can go give people a ride. You can't give a ride to someone else. It's not putra, it's dechuya for this purpose. Bibnei dochak, because of dochak in this case means, what are you going to do? We're being forced into this. Vein dochin kol davar hanirche, ela b'makom she'ef shtar. We don't push everything aside, only that which, b'makom she'ef shtar. And that's why also, by the way, this whole dechuya b'tzibur thing, we try to minimize what we're doing bituma, and also we needed seats to, I guess, I said I don't know how to translate the word leratzot. It means to allow the thing to be accepted sacrificially. You want a copy, by the way? Here. I don't know what page we're on in that edition, so good luck. Now we could give reviews to the soup, by the way, if there's any criticisms. Don't worry, my wife didn't make it, I did. So
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Yeah, the kids like it.
Good.
Try to perfect the recipe and never change it. Do the exact quantities, almost to weigh it out on a scale exactly like that. Is there anything left, by the way?
A tiny bit.
Okay. So if there's if it looks like it's start to burn, just unplug the blech. How do we know that, by the way, this is the case? Tumat made is duchya b'tzibur. As it says, Shnemar v'hina shim asher hayu tamim l'nefesh adam. The Pesach Sheni Parsha. Everybody was doing, Pesach in the desert. This is a year after the Exodus. And there were some men who were impure by contact with the dead, right, or corpse impurity. Kach lamadu b'pia shmua. They learned from, by tradition, from Moses. She'anashim yichidim, heim sheyidachu lefesach sheni. These people are the ones who asked the question, and they were given, Pesach Sheni. Why? Because they're pushed to Pesach Sheni. Everybody's going to be doing Pesach properly. You get a second chance in a month. Im ha'yutmeim, if they were tamei, of course, they were impure. Aval tzibur sheyutmei made. If you have an entire tzibur that are contaminated, ein nidchin. You don't push them all to Pesach Sheni. Ela tumah tidached mipneihem. You push aside the tumah and say Pesach is going to happen, and let the tzibur do it, even the tzibur is entirely contaminated. V'yasu Pesach b'tumah, let them do the Pesach b'tumah. And by the way, the Rambam brings an halacha in Hilchot Pesach. Not only that, if the Pesach is done b'tumah for the majority, then the minority who didn't do Korban Pesach for whatever reason, even of course the ones who are pure can do Korban Pesach if the Pesach is done B'tumah. Those who had an excuse, they're Derech Rechoka, etc., who normally get pushed to Pesach Sheni, don't get a second chance. Pesach Sheni only happens when Pesach Rishon happens B'tara. Okay, that's another limud of Chazal. So you wouldn't have. Imagine you're one of those people. I guess you're coming from Bavel or you're coming from Turkey, back in the first century. You know that you're going to miss first Pesach. So what do? You start heading on your way to Jerusalem. You're going to hit Pesach Sheni. You're hoping I get Pesach Sheni, and then you show up in Jerusalem, on the 10th of Iyar, and they tell you this year Pesach Rishon was done B'tumah for whatever reason, so we are not having a Pesach Sheni. Okay, so I guess he gets a schar halicha in that case, but you can't do a Pesach Sheni. So Pesach is the paradigm, and the other korban, which also has a set time, has to be brought today. So it pushes aside the tumah. It's not heter, but it pushes it aside. Why does the Rambam mention this? Because this is a sugya. Is it tumah hutra or dechuya b'tzibur? You probably heard the expression tumah hutra b'tzibur. So the Rambam doesn't hold of that lahalacha. Okay. Next halacha here. I like this one. I'm going to continue reading here. I'm trying to keep up with on the computer and in my book. Hold on a second. So yeah, let's read about this incident. Shir Tanakh, Divrei Yamim Beis. V'arei advar mefurash b'ktuvim. It's written in the Ketuvim. Shneimar sham ki rabat bakahal asher lo hitkadashu v'alvim al shchitat hapsachim lakol lo tahor ki marbita am rabat me Ephraim u'mimnashe Yisachar uzvulun lo hitaharu. Okay, hitaharu. So what was going on here? This is something very interesting. I had a kasha on this, by the way. What? It's happened in Chizkiyahu's time. He's referred to as Chizkiyahu or Chizkiyah in the book of Kings and in the book of Isaiah, but in Divrei Yamim he is always Chizkiyahu or Chizkiyah. They add a yud to the beginning of his name. So yud with the shava. Just like David, always in Divrei Yamim is spelled with an extra yud, right? Oh. Yeah. There's a few names like that. So here's the first thing. Let's just begin the story and try to understand this. This happened in his very first year that Chizkiyahu decided what he is going to make up for all the crimes that his father Achaz committed. They say that he repudiated everything his father did and even desecrated his father's corpse to show everybody that he wasn't like his father. Yeah. So Chizkiyahu became king at a really perilous time for the Jewish people. Why? Because a few years into his reign, the Assyrians are finally going to basically destroy the northern kingdom and take all the 10 tribes into exile, and that's going to be it for them. So he's trying to bring everybody back to the temple service, give the 10 tribes a chance. And there are many of the other tribes who actually accepted his invitation, but he realized they're going to be Tamim. Here's the question I have for you. Okay, I'll read you what the pasuk says, and I realized, I never saw this. I never understood this, and I didn't find a good answer, but I think we could offer a suggestion. Okay? Chizkiyahu malach ben 25 shana, ve-29 shana malach b'Yerushalayim. Chizkiyahu took the throne at the age of 25, and he reigned for 29 years, similar to King Amaziah. V'shem imo Aviyah bat Zechariyahu. His mother's name was Aviyah, daughter of Zechariyahu. V'ya'as hayashar b'nei Hashem k'chol asher asa David aviv. And he did, what was right in the eyes of God, just like David, his father. Huva shana harishona l'molcho. He, in the first year of his reign, b'chodesh harishon, in the first month, patachat deltot beit Hashem v'yichazakein, opened up the doors of the temple and strengthened them. It means he decided we're going to refix the temple. Now here's my question. Wait a minute, when did he do this? In his first year, in the first month. That means right when he became king. Why? Because if it was his first year, and it's Nisan, that means that the previous month he wouldn't have been king. That would have been his first year. That would have been in his first year in the 12th month or the 13th month, if it was a leap month. Right. So when Chizkiyahu did this, it means he mamish became king then. And this is right before Pesach. That means Chizkiyahu became king within 2 weeks of when Pesach started. And then we read, by the way, what happens next. He has this whole fix up the temple and purify it. And he has this Eitzah where it says, what? He realized that they can't do Pesach in time, which the Rambam is about to discuss. It says here, what? It says Vayvatz, okay? Where is the pasuk? Hold on a second.
He ascends on the 30th.
Yeah. So what happens? It says that he was Ma'aber Nisan b'Nisan. It means that he declared what? Next month is Nisan. He basically declared that when he became king, what? It's Adar. So he became king in year zero of his reign in the ninth month. How would you describe that? I want to read the exact pasuk to you so you can understand the difficulty. Rambam describes this, by the way, the sugya in two places, here and his Parish of Mishnayos. In the Parish of Mishnayos, he just says, yeah, he declared what, and also Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh. The Rambam says, what was the shtick here? Why okay, no, that's not the thing. That's not the pasuk I'm looking here. Oh man, I'm missing it. See after this pasuk that we just read, he decided that they're going to do Pesach in the second month. It says Chazal did not approve of what Chizkiyahu did because he basically decided to make it a leap year. It's not that he said everybody should do Pesach Sheni.
After the fact.
He told everybody that we're going to make this the coming month. You think it should be Nisan, but it's really Adar. And it says he did it too late. He did it on the 30th of the outgoing Adar. Remember, why do we keep the 30th as Rosh Chodesh? Because the 30th, if witnesses show up, they say, we saw the moon last night. The base announces today is the first of the incoming month, not the 30th of the outgoing month. And sometimes no witnesses showed up on the 30th, and they just said, okay, tonight is the first. That's all it is. There's no such thing as a 31-day Jewish month. If day 30 comes, you don't hear an announcement that it's now the first, that means it's still the 30th, and tonight is going to be the first. Like this month, right now, we just ended the 30th of Mar Cheshvan, and now it's the 1st of Kislev. Whether or not you should be keeping the 30th of the month now as Rosh Chodesh is a question, because we have a set calendar. We know when the month actually starts. Okay, but leave that aside. So what Chizkiyahu did was he declared Nisan, B'Nisan on a day it should have been Nisan, according to the way the Rambam and other Mefarshim understand this. This is this Gemara. So he became, like you said, he must have become king when? On the very day he became king, they started making this decision. As part of, by the way, in Sefer Yeshua, we also have similar things. There's a lot of events in Sefer Yeshua that when Yeshua sent the spies and we got ready to cross the Jordan, a lot of what happened in Yeshua, according to the traditional chronology, if you do the math, happened simultaneously. It was a lot of things were happening that day when he sent the spies and when he talked to Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain and prepared to cross the Jordan. A lot was happening. So too, Chizkiyahu decided to re-purify the temple and get all the Kohanim in order, like as described in the first chapters, is also right when Chizkiyahu became king. So we know what day he became king because it says in the first month of the first year of his reign. And then we said, yeah, but that wasn't even Nisan. Turns out it was Adar. So that's what it must be. That's what it must be. Okay. So there's no other way to understand it within the Rambam, unless I'm just not smart enough. By dealing with smart people, I have to say I think this is a wonderful thing. Our channel hosts content from some amazing creators. As you know, I think Rabbi Bar-Hayim is brilliant. Obviously he's really smart. Rabbi Siskind also. You've spoken to him. You've heard what he has to say. I think he's also a younger genius. And of course, Dr. England is he's also brilliant. And sitting around and talking to them makes me feel like the stupid guy in the room. That's which is they used to say I was like a smart kid. I got good grades in school. I could do math, but sitting around with them, it's just like makes me feel like I'm a nobody. Like really, really small compared to everybody who's so smart. So I'm maybe someone smarter than me can figure this out, but I see no other way to understand it than the way you described it. He must have become king on the 30th of Adar, and he declared, "We're making that was it's just now we're starting in Adar Sheni." So the first month of his reign was Adar Sheni, and they call it the first month because Chazal and the Nevi'im criticized him. They said he thought it's just Adar Sheni of year zero, and they're saying no, you should have left it Nisan of your first year. And he said, but we did the Korban Pesach on the 15th of the first month. They're saying no, we call it the second month. Okay, we'll consider it like a Pesach Sheni. That's why it says Chazal lo hodu lo. They did not agree with what he did. Okay. And then that's another Thanksgiving reference, by the way, just to know grammar. Okay. Hodhu, the shorish is yud dalid silent hey. And hodhu is an imperative. Give thanks. It's a hifil, right? Lehodot. So there's no dot in the Dalet. Hodu. And Hodu, which is mentioned in Megillas Esther, there's a dot in the Dalet, and it's Mil'el. Why is there a dot in the Dalet? Because the Shorish Nun Dalet silent Hey, like India, Hindu. Hinduin is mentioned in the Mishneh a few times. It means Indian, right? So they have fine Indian linen, right? So when we say Hodu, that's Mil'el, dot in the Dalet, and there's Hodu, give thanks. And it's nothing to do with, so they eat Tarnagal Hodu, India bird. They call it like the Indian bird because they thought it came from India, it came from America. They called eat Tarnagal Hodu on the day you give thanks. Okay, so just a coincidence there. So let's see this. It says here in this halacha, Mahu Zeshin Amar. What does it mean when it says in the pasuk, Ki achlu et Pesach below katuv? They ate the Pesach not like it says in the Torah. He added a leap month to that year. See, the voice of the Navi is critical of him. Chizkiyahu thought that he created another Sheni, and the month he did Pesach was the first month. No, what he did was Pesach in Iyar. Ki lo yachlu lasoto ba'itahi ki akwanim lo hitkadeshu l'madai. They couldn't do it at the right time because the Kohanim hadn't purified sufficiently. Means sometimes lahit kadesh means to purify oneself with water. How do I know that? Because the next paragraph we're going to be talking about washing one's hands, the Kohanim washing his hands and feet. What do they call that from the Kior before the service? Yeah, Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. So a few places, rinsing with water and purifying is also called Kiddush. And sometimes Nikdash means become prohibited, right? Or become contaminated. Why? Because contaminated stuff is prohibited. And that's what it says in the book of, what is it, Zechariah, I think. Or no, Chagai. Asked the Kohanim, Chagai Navi was sent to test the Kohanim halacha. Big sugya there. What was the questions he actually asked them? Hayikdash, the meat that touches this, will it become sanctified? And it means become contaminated or become prohibited. Okay? Sometimes, these words are used interchangeably. You have to know what it means in a specific context. What?
Also, chitui.
Yeah.
It's also like that.
Yeah. Chitui means to sin, but also means to purify something, or it means to, nowadays it means to disinfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw that by what did the Nazir do? Shot. Nazir brings a chatos. How did he sin? Because he stops being a Nazir? Because he took upon Naziris for himself and prohibited things? No, the shot is that he's changing his status halachically. So anybody who changes status has a chatat. It purifies him of, it like burns out whatever was possessing him, and now he has a different halachic category. Yeah, it's a change of state. That's all. Hitui. Remember, lechatera bai, it means to purify it. Sometimes it's scouring something. The physical kippur, by the way, means atonement for sin. When you do it to a pot, it means to scour the pot and to do hagala to the pot. It means to just remove whatever impurities are in the metal so that it doesn't impart taste. Yeah. So these things, I just have to make sure we don't get disconnected. Okay. I might have to power up here. Just for a minute. Here. Plug it in. No, use the extension cord. Or actually, yeah. I'm plugging it also.
Where it describes sprinkling on the golden altar uses similar language, like mechateh.
Yeah, the v'chitei et hamizbeach. Yeah. It's described that in Shemos. He describes in Shemos, it mentions that they're going to be doing the Yom Kippur service, and it involves this chitui. By the way, if history is any indication, what did Chizkiyahu Melech want to do? He wanted to bring back the 10 tribes. Why? Because for about 2 centuries, the official policy of the regime was no aliyah regel, right? So he said, Korban Pesach, sudden reestablishment of the service would be great kiruv. To suddenly tell people, hey, there is a Beis HaMikdash all along. You've been told not to come here, but the truth is the Beis HaMikdash exists, and you're supposed to go there, and here's your chance. And it's, it could, like I said, great kiruv. I certainly believe that the sudden reestablishment of the temple service, like in Chizkiyahu's time, would also be a good, not necessarily a panacea. That's a cure-all for Am Yisrael, but it would be a good, I guess, jumpstart for national religious health. Just an idea. I mean, that's described here, and Jewish history, especially as a way of repeating itself. I don't know if the history of the world repeats. They say it rhymes, but Jewish history certainly repeats. Ma'aseh avos sim levanim, right? History repeats itself. So if this was any indication, it should work for us too. Okay. So it says, we also said that whether people are tumah or not should not be a consideration when they decide to add a leap month or not. There's weather considerations, the crops are considerations, a lot of things are considerations, but this is not a consideration because they could have done it technically betuma. This is like his Parashah Mishneh. When did he make this decision? On the 30th of Adar, which should have been Rosh Chodesh Nisan, or they could have said tomorrow. We know it was a choice. Either today or tomorrow was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So like I said, but it says he did this in the first month of his first year on the throne. And if it had been Adar, then Nisan would have been his second year already. So it must be that he basically added a month to his reign that's not even counted by the Bible. The Bible does count it. The first year of his first month was Nisan, but he thought it was Adar. He thought he was tricking us and calling it Adar. See? So Machlokes, the author of Divrei Yamim, and what Chizkiyahu Melech was saying. Chizkiyahu Melech would have said, no, this is already my second year. I took the throne in Adar, right? And then Nisan happened. And they're telling him, no, you took the throne in Nisan, and you did Pesach in Iyar. Okay, fine. Also, you're not supposed to even you're certainly not supposed to create a leap year. Technically speaking, you could make a leap year as late as Adar, whatever it is, when they say, even after Purim. Well, the Mishnah gives an example. They read the Megillah, they observed Purim, and then it became a leap year. So they do Purim again in Adar Sheni, correct? So that's entertainable. That's an emergency. They realize things aren't going well. Normally, when do they make the decision, by the way, to add a leap year? When's the best time to realize it's going to be a leap year? Around the same time our leap year starts at Tishrei, right around Tishrei. That's a Rabbi Gamliel precedent. Okay, it says we have a letter from Rabbi Gamliel, the elder, his decision that this year is going to be a leap year. How they make the determination? Normally, they realize when Passover is going to fall out, but also Sukkot. You look far ahead into Sukkot. You say if Sukkot itself is going to be kind of early, so it's another reason to make a leap year. What is early? Before the equinoxes, basically. Okay.
It's too hot out.
Yeah, Sukkot is too hot, or Pesach is too cold. By the way, this what was it in 2021? You guys were not in Eretz Yisrael. I remember this is the highly unusual Passover. We were in Jerusalem, of course, and Pesach started on a Motzei Shabbos, and basically it was this March 21st. I think it was. You can look this up right now. Pesach started basically as early as it could possibly be in the season. Here in Israel, already March is quite temperate, but what was it? Look at this. You go to Hebrew month 57. It was in 5781, and it was the 14th of Nisan, which was Erev Pesach, was a Shabbos, and that Gregorian date was 27 of March. Okay, a little bit early. So what happened? I remember that Friday evening, walking to shul, it was rainy. It was rainy all of Erev Shabbos. It rained all Shabbos evening, and the temperature was hovering just above freezing in Jerusalem. Yeah. So there was a time to do maybe an Ibur Ashana. That would have been a time to do it because it certainly wasn't Passover-like weather. Remember how cold it was, and even during Chol Moed, so it got better. But certainly leading up to Pesach, it wouldn't have known it was Pesach based on the precedent of other years. Okay, let's see what else. What he did was not kalacha. Why? He said, "I want to get more Jews in. I have all these people coming from other tribes. They're not pure at all." By the way, why would you have so many people from the northern tribes? I understand they don't go to the Beis HaMikdash regularly. Well, why are they impure for Tumas Mace? Didn't they practice Tumah and Tara back then? And the answer is
They didn't have the right Kohanim.
they didn't have the Kohanim. It says elsewhere in the Mishnah, in Taros, that the way to remove death impurity is by getting the ashes of the paraduma sprinkled on someone. Where'd they keep them? Well, they kept some at the temple, and in Jerusalem and the Kohanic cities. The Kohanim were in charge of this. So a person could be distant from the temple. He just has to find the Kohanim who are holding on to some of the water. And by the way, this water persisted even after the temple was destroyed for quite a while. There are people who are still keeping this purification ritual because it's necessary. So the problem was that it says in Divrei Yomim at the beginning when Yeravam came up with his whole plan to cut the Jews off from, by Jews I mean Israelites. Basically, if you were Jewish, you're in the south, you're safe. This is when the difference, there was an actual distinction between being just Israeli or Israelite and Jewish. So Yeravam said, you know what? You can't go to the temple, and not only that, I'm going to open up the priesthood, make a more egalitarian priesthood. Remember?
Yeah.
So it says he says that one of his major sins was he made Kohanim at his Beit Bamot who were not of the seed of Levi.
Mhm.
He opened it up to first the aristocracy and then to everybody who was qualified, well, according to his own standards. And it says that all the Kohanim and the Levium picked up and left their own cities. They forsook their own cities and they moved south. And also any other good from Jews who realized that Yeravam was up to no good. And it says they strengthened the southern kingdom. So for 200 years, you didn't have Kohanim and Levium around, basically in the north, to purify the people. Where would the Paraduma ashes come from? They would come from Jerusalem and the Beis HaMikdash. And they were under the charge of the Kohanim Levium, who were mostly loyal to what? The kings of Judah. So basically, the 10 tribes got along their entire lives for, like I said, close to 2 centuries without purifying themselves from Tumas Mace, just like us nowadays. Many of us go to mikvah. We know how to remove those impurities. And we've never gotten sprinkled from Tumas Mace. I don't know. Maybe you guys are lucky. Maybe you've never been to a funeral. Maybe you've never been contaminated by going near a corpse. But many of us have. So we just live our lives with this. And that was basically the situation that these tribes were in. They had never experienced this type of this positive commandment of purifying from Tumas Mace. Yeah, so we have to appreciate this. God willing, this will be one of the first steps that we'll take in also reestablishing the whole temple lifestyle. You know, Hanukkah's coming up, so maybe we should have instead of just celebrating the Hanukkah of 22 centuries ago, we should have the Hanukkah, the nowadays Hanukkah, a new Hanukkah. That'd be pretty good. Okay. It says Ki achlura Pesach v'lo kachatuv. They ate the Passover not like it says in the Torah. Uvikesha atzmo rachamim v'al chachamim sheyiskimu al ma'asav. And Chizkiyo prayed that maybe God should have mercy on them for doing so wrong. They should have just said, people are not purified for Pesach. We'll go ahead with Pesach because Tumah dechuya b'tzibur. They didn't need to do this. Shnemar ki yitpalel Chizkiyahu alehem lemor Hashem atov yichaper ba'ad. Okay, and so he said God should cure us, not of our physical maladies, of our spiritual maladies. When Amar, why God heeded Hezekiah and he cured the people. So it means that their korban was accepted. And that's the end of the 5th paragraph over here.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.